Welcome to the With Intention podcast. Eventually, I will have introductory music. Why don't I? I don't know, because it's just me in my studio room. My name is Chanda Lynn. I am a recovering drug addict. I am a mother, a public figure person that does videos and things. Also a music artist. A lot of my music is largely based around addiction, recovery, mental health, any life issue, you name it, I probably cover it. What else am I? I'm a little freaking weirdo, dude. And I've been going through a lot of crazy things, as many of us do, and had a lot of realizations. And I found that I don't particularly relate to most people, unfortunately, which has caused me to feel pretty isolated. But I somehow have this irrational belief that if I start this podcast, the With Intention podcast, that the right people will find it and we will come into alignment with one another. You don't have to believe anything spiritually to be a part of this. But I thought that there was something to be shared that's rather valuable for the first ever episode of With Intention. I am not going to edit any of these, so this is just going to be candid. It is what it is. I believe that what is meant to be said will be will be said, and so there's that. So I went through a pretty terrible period of nihilism, nihilistic, really believed that life had no meaning whatsoever. And in fact, I've had periods of time where I've believed that actually we were created as some sort of even kind of sick joke, that it was worse than meaningless, but that it was meaningless plus also sinister. And I know that many people out there, especially people on YouTube, YouTube happens to house some of my types of people, feel the same, that life in and of itself is meaningless and sometimes even worse than meaningless. You are not alone. I know specifically how this feels. And I believe I started experiencing it somewhere around the time of last winter. I've gone through many things: drug addiction, overdoses, being left pregnant and alone. You name it, dude. And I've probably been through something similar. I'm out there, been through things like a person does, just probably more extreme than most people. But never did I lose the idea that existence had meaning up until winter of 2022. And we're nearing out the end of 2022. But I was betrayed very deeply. And I've been betrayed before, but this was by a person that I just couldn't conceive of ever betraying me. It really seemed like on the spectrum of all that could exist, not this. And the one thing that betrayal did was remove my belief in humanity's goodness and that existence had any meaning. Like, it reached right through to the center of all that I had left. Because at that time, I didn't have a lot. Like, outwardly, I have a lot. I have a following. I have children. I have all of these amazing things and this insight. But it just reached in and took the one thing that I've always been able to hold on to in the midst of every trial, which was my belief in humanity's goodness, like I said, and the idea that life had meaning. Forcibly removed that. And what led thereafter was this state of total and complete meaninglessness, where I looked out into the world. I did not see goodness in people. I believed that everybody was capable of the same deceit, betrayal, darkness, and even myself capable of that, so there probably also wasn't good left within me. And that we're just here, and I'm just here spinning around a ball of frickin' fire, and no thing that I'm looking at inherently has any meaning at all. That's a hard place to be in, to then convince yourself to be motivated to do anything good ever. Like it was pointless. Good or bad didn't matter what I did. Completely pointless. There's no point in any of it. I could go out there and run my car into a tree. Pointless. Wouldn't matter. No cause for it. No. It's just it will. It is. No meaning though. And it took a while. Like it's one thing to have, I don't know, your sense of hope removed, which I have, and during this time it also removed my hope. That's pretty bad. That's a bad place to be in, to have no hope. I'm not going to minimize it. It's a terrible place to also be in. But couple hopelessness with meaninglessness, and it's just a totally different ballpark. I've been through suicidal depression before. Bad place to be in, but there was always still this like kind of underlying snuck under there was like, oh, well, in the end of all of this, it might have meaning if I make it through and don't take my own life, or just underneath here, there might be just a little shred of hope. Nope. Not during this winter. Not during this winter. All of it gone. And only those who have been through this will know the gravity of this, the heaviness. Everything was bleak. And so I found no value in creating or maintaining relationships with others, being any form of light in their life. Just all of it was senseless. Yep, it's a place to be in. And it took me several months of like, not only did I not believe in goodness in other people, but I was entirely cynical that at some point, these beings who are capable of the same darkness that I've encountered are going to cause this darkness in my life, no matter how light or good they appear to be, and therefore they are inherently dark, evil, sinister, just as the rest of anybody else here. So I'm pretty much stuck on a freaking planet with everybody that has the worst intentions. And yeah, that's bad. And for several months in this place of cynicism and just belief in the worst in people, it came down to this one realization that I had. And so maybe it'll be helpful to you if you are suffering with nihilism, however you pronounce it. We're constantly asking life, what do you mean? What is your meaning? What does life mean? Constantly. Even if we're not consciously doing it, we are. And the realization I had was, what if life is asking us what we are going to make it mean? Hear me out here. Meaning is created in the mind. Even the meaning I made that life is meaningless was created in my mind. Therefore, even the idea that life is meaningless is a meaning that I had made in my mind. Believing people to be dark and sinister and capable of all sorts of wickedness is a meaning I placed on them with my mind, because I realized my mind, your mind, is a meaning maker. That's why when a bomb is dropped in some obscure country, another country will celebrate the fact that this has happened. They'll be having dinner parties, celebrating out in the streets, and then another country will be in a deep state of grieving over this country being bombed. Did the bomb itself have any inherent meaning, or was it the minds that knew about this that created the meaning about this bombing? I mean, you could argue all sorts of things, but the reason it meant something good to one country and the reason it meant something bad to another country was because of the meaning that they made about it. If life was inherently meaningless, you'd have to remove our minds from life. Our minds could not exist in this reality if all was meaningless, because our minds can create meaning, and therefore that makes life inherently meaningful, because there's something in it that creates meaning even when there's not any, or possibly not any. Or maybe there is and we can't detect it. And so I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, okay, yeah, guess I've been asking life this entire time, what's the meaning? When I could intentionally create my own, just as you can. Suffering with nihilism, you can make whatever meaning you want of anything, because your mind is infinitely powerful and capable of doing so. And that's kind of incredible. And you'll say to yourself, well, why even go out of the way to make meaning? I'm just going to stick with, without me making the meaning, there wouldn't be meaning anyways. Okay, we'll live out that reality. You already are, so like, how's that feeling? Probably not so great. And then, if you believe this, I think that, I think it's also important to mention, if you're open to it, this is something else that might be helpful to you if you, are a more open person, is to research near-death experiences. And the reason that I'm saying this is because across the thousands of stories, or I've listened to at least over 1,000 now, but I'll just say thousands, there are certain pinnacle things that happen to each person that are similar to the over 1,000 others that I've heard. There are certain like mile markers in a near-death experience. And one of those is, I mean, you've heard of the tunnel that people go through. That's very common. Most of them have gone through a tunnel. They see the light. There are so many different phases of a near-death experience. But what they say is, like the majority of them, 95% of them that have had a near-death experience come back saying that we chose to be here, that we chose to come to this earth to have an experience, and that these big, significant, difficult things that we've had happen in our life, we actually chose those before we even came here to happen. There are some circumstances we've chosen but may or may not happen based on other people's free will, that you come here in a soul group, which means that like your mother, your father, or the people you're closest to in your life, you actually chose to come here with them as a little cluster, as a little group, to enact out these certain things. And that the point and meaning of all of this is that you yourself are actually, like what you inherently are, is a being of light that is infinite love. That comes, and you don't have to believe this, but I'm entertaining you here. That comes from the source of all light and all love, a grand source that you're made in the image, or you are a part of that, and we are all one. But the idea is to come into a reality where the opposite of that love and that light is possible, in order to hopefully, because you think before you come here, you're going to choose to do the loving light thing, to hopefully encounter the direct reflection of the light and love you are, which would be darkness, hatred, division, and in the face of it, choose to love and illuminate anyways, because that strengthens, that builds, that expands the actual being, the thing you actually are. But the only way to truly expand it is not only on the other side to like learn about darkness or hatred or division, but actually to come have an experience of it and choose to be all that you are in the face of it. And therefore, 95% of near-death experiencers say that the meaning of life is to come here and to love, because you are expanding the thing you actually are. And it's like, okay, well, you don't have to believe these things to be true or not true in order to apply them in your life. in order to create some meaning out of it. But it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense. I mean, every religion leads back to this for the most part. Every great spiritualist will say the meaning we're here is to love because we are all one. Well, I've been thinking about this like quite a bit, and the awareness is what we are, and that helped me quite tremendously as well with my nihilism. Not only that I can create my meaning, because I was given and or have a mind that can create meaning, so my responsibility is to create it, but also that I would be here electively choosing to face these certain things in the hopes that I would make the choice that was closest to the authentic thing that I am. And that's a place to choose from. That's a thing to try to align yourself with, and kind of play out that reality. What if that was so? What if that was so? Then everything that you have had happen to you leading up to this point, you kind of chose. You just slightly chose it. Even to the place of your nihilistic emptiness. You even chose that. Why? I don't know. So maybe you would harness your incredible, extraordinary power to create meaning and, I don't know, do it in the name of love or whatever it'll end up being for you. But maybe all roads have led you to this point of realization that if all of this has no meaning, that I still do, though. That's the crazy thing. I still have this thing. Still have this thing that can make it in the face of none of it. Therefore, it's got something going on there. I also heard this quote, since this is a podcast, I can just ramble on. I think it was Gandhi. My life is my message. Did you know that with intention, you can create the message of your life? I mean, that's what you're going to be remembered by anyways. It's like, what'd you do? Does your life have a cohesive message? And if not, are you willing to structure one while you're here? Because you can live out this meaningless, petrifying, kind of terrible, kind of awful existence and, ride it to the bitter end. Or like in one moment, could be this moment, could be another moment, you can literally just harness all that you are and all that has happened and just choose. Like it's just a choice. That, all right, with all I know, I'm going to choose to make it mean this. My life is this message. What's the hardest thing you've ever been through? What did you get out of it? Use that, whatever that is. That's what I'm here to do. Convince yourself of it. Because the only thing that can determine the truth of something is you. Not externally. As soon as something hits you and your consciousness, your mind, only you can determine whether or not it's true. And there's this mantra, don't ever forget it. Everything is happening for you. You would say to yourself, everything is happening for me. The only thing that can determine the truth of that statement is you, is me. So when I encounter a circumstance, even my despair and my nihilism, that all happened for me, just as it's happening for you. No external thing is going to float down from the sky and say, hey, that's pretty true or that's pretty not true. You're the only one in control of the truth of that statement for yourself, just as you are with anything else. And it's like, oh, damn, if I determine the truth or the falsity of something, I better get really intentional about what I'm choosing to believe is true. Because if I can choose anything to believe it to be true, pretty much anything, then let me just structure the right things in place that I'm determining to believe are true or are false. That's your incredible, powerful power as a human being. It's like you get to determine because you're the one making the meaning. Make sense? Again, nothing's going to fall from the sky and be like, nope, that's not happening for you. You, on the other hand, you're a meaning maker? Yes, you can. And imagine viewing the world through a lens that all of these circumstances are being orchestrated together for me, for my good. What's the sense of not believing it? But there's so much sense in believing it. There are people that have done incredible things in this world just because they believed that it was all just orchestrated for all of these things to happen for them. It's just a belief of it. And it's like, oh, well, I mean, if we can do that, we can live a life of never harnessing that extraordinary power, and then we end up kind of ordinary. Or it's like, I mean, I have a decision to make. All that happened for me. Definitely happened for me. My addiction, where I overdosed and all of that happened actually for me. I've been able to help, can't tell you how many thousands of people due to what happened to me. Been able to make incredible music, been able to travel the country and speak on stages because of that happening. And that happened for me. These last several accidents I've been in like 3 accidents in 3 months, all no fault accidents, by the way. I haven't figured out the meaning or the why yet, or what one I'll create about it if I don't receive an answer. But I just know that that's happening for me. I didn't feel that way a couple of weeks ago. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's been a lot. But I also have this awareness, like, this is happening for me. And if I don't get the why, I will make the why. Because no thing outside of me can determine the truth of that why except for me. Other people can challenge it, but it's like, it's not them, and it's not happening to them, so who cares what their rebuttal would be anyways, you see? Like, anyways, that was my solution to nihilism. That life is asking us what we are going to make it mean. My life is going to mean so many incredible things. My life is my message, and it already means so many incredible things. The fact that I'm alive sitting here before you making this podcast, that means something incredible had to happen to make all of this so, just for me to be sitting here before you, and I'm aware of that. And many other people are also aware of that. What's yours going to mean? What do you want it to mean? Let's say you made up, you constructed an entire character that was exactly like you with all of your same exact life experiences, and it's a book you're reading. Like, what's the meaning of that? What would you make it mean if you could just write it out? Okay, character, bam, 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 all of these things. But that meant that that person facing all of this was going to do this. Hold the pen. Hold the pen. You're the author. Or you're co-authoring. At the very least. You're co-authoring with, if you believe in God or some higher spiritual being, you really are. That's why that being gave you a mind that could create meaning. Co-author it. Like, take part in the story. Take part in the story. Or, telling you what, all of this outside of you is going to reach in and grab that pen and write it for you, and it's going to write out your nihilism. Maybe it already did up until this point. You just pull back the pen, little fucker, pull it back from the hand of life. So yeah, anyways, felt that was important to share. Thank you for being here with me on this first episode of the With Intention podcast. I am Chanda Lynn. I have my social stuff linked below. Again, at some point, hopefully here soon, I will have a musical introduction and outro, and it will just seem so much more professional than what I'm doing right now. But I felt that this was the time in my life that I was supposed to start this podcast. So I'm responding to that. Or maybe I just I made a meaning. I made a meaning about me needing to do a podcast because it was going to have some extraordinary meaning, and maybe it ends up being so just because I thought that it meant that. Watch. That would be crazy. Okay. Thank you for joining me. You have a wonderful day, you guys.